Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan commenting on what's happening with USAID. It is wild what Elon Musk and the Doge team have uncovered. We're going to go Joe Rogan first. Then I'm going to give you an information dump. I mean, we're talking about Pentagon breakdowns, Nancy Mace talking about it, Politico funded by USAID. Trump's going to talk about it. He wants to investigate the kickbacks that he thinks were happening within this whole thing because millions of dollars spent on sushi just doesn't make sense. Then I'm going to go through some tweets, people reacting. Then there's going to be someone on Fox. I believe she is a Republican senator talking about the lies she's heard from USAID. And then we're going to watch a bunch of Democrats fighting back against this whole thing. It's pretty wild to see. Let's start with the Joe Rogan clip first.
This USAID thing that's going on, Mike Benz has been on that like a pit bull, and I've been following him on X, and he's going to come back on here and kind of explain everything. But he explained it the last time he was here, and I don't think I really grasped it until Elon's 6 wizards. He brought in some young wizards to go in there and go over the books, and they are just finding crazy. It's great, and it's so interesting. I was listening to a left-wing podcast today. I like to mix it up. I listen to all kinds of different stuff, and it was like I was listening to a different world. Like, they weren't even talking about all of this corruption and all this obvious buying of influence. Instead, they were talking about aid overseas and how people are going to starve. And
it's mind-boggling, and there's also, I have to say, I'm upset at the general pattern of a failure to recognize how right those of us who hypothesized that there was a racket that had overtaken our entire governance structure, we turn out to be absolutely right about this, and no one's going to mention it. That's mind-blowing.
It's very strange that the media is ignoring it, especially the left-wing media. It's just too big of a win for the right, and so they're just ignoring it. And then they're just highlighting the good things that USA did, which I'm sure it probably did. Probably had to do some good things to like at least justify its existence.
As a cover story, I'm not even sure. Maybe it doesn't change anything. Obviously, this was a mechanism used to funnel money to all sorts of things that we didn't vote on, that don't make sense in light of our constitutional structure. And I obviously have concerns like everybody else about where this train takes us, but seeing that structure broken up it's a huge relief.
They gave $27 million to the George Soros Prosecutor Fund. So our own government is funding this left-wing lunatic who is hiring the most insane prosecutors who are letting people out of jail who commit violent crimes.
And that's exactly how this racket worked, that the ability to tax the American public and then effectively get us to pay for being propagandized, for being surveilled, that's the game. And I don't know what era we currently live in. Obviously, there's a lot that's confusing about what the Trump administration is up to, but I don't think any reasonable person could be unhappy that we are exiting that era.
I'm going to read off some of the things that this guy, Kanakota the Great, on Twitter listed. And this is off the Jesse Water Show. USAID, $20 million for Iraqi Sesame Street, $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes, $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash, $27 million to give gift bags to illegals. $27 million. $330 million to help Afghanis grow crops. Crops. I wonder what those crops are. What's their biggest crop, Brett?
It's going to be the poppy seeds for bagels, I'm thinking.
$200 million on an unused Afghani dam. $250 million on an unused Afghani road. This is wild. I mean, some of this stuff is really, really crazy.
Well, yes, and, USAID is, of course, riddled through whatever international madness it is that caused us to open our southern border and facilitate an invasion through the Darien Gap. So, seeing that structure laid bare it almost feels like it can't be real. Like, it can't have been this close to the surface, and yet here we are.
They were spending, is this number correct? I think the number that I read was $600 million every 2 months to ship in illegals.
Sounds right. I don't know the number offhand, but
What the
Well, you have to realize that basically we had a shadow apparatus functioning, and it involves all kinds of things. It involves payoffs to people who didn't deserve them. It involves contracting to entities that were necessary to get the work done. So I don't think we can properly understand what these numbers mean and what they're actually being used for, but it was a racket.
Well, we were always wondering, like, why is our debt so high? Why is the national debt so high? Like, why is our deficit so insane? Well, this is it. I mean, how about the one where they paid $236 billion, like, for chargers? Do you know that they were trying to set up chargers?
You mean car chargers?
Car chargers.
And they only built a couple of them?
Excuse me. $40 billion for electric car ports. 8 ports have been built. Do you know how crazy that is? $40 billion for car ports.
But I have to say, as much as this is shocking, I wasn't surprised. I thought that effectively our entire system had been turned into a racket and that we were basically being fed a cover story from it. And it's weird to now have the evidence of this, but I think it was apparent that whatever had taken over our system wasn't interested in the well-being of average people, that it was interested in the power of the state to take people's resources and redistribute them, and that really is what's been going on for most of our adult lives.
And it's also important to note that this progressive, left-leaning, like radical left arm of the government, of the country, was manufactured.
Yes.
It's all manufactured. It's all manufactured and supported. It's not organic, which is really fascinating about the other side, because the other side, the reaction to it is organic. Like, say what you want about the Trump administration and what you think about him. That was an organic shift where people were like, enough.
Yes, it was an overdue reaction.
Yeah.
The cover story that what we were up to was righting past wrongs was so pernicious and pervasive that it was hard to get our footing to challenge it.
Right.
But it shouldn't really be surprising that that movement wasn't organic. Of course it was induced. It was a cover story for theft. And we're going to be waking up to the magnitude of that theft for quite some time.
Allow that. That continues, this creep of incompetence is tolerated. And it shouldn't be tolerated because people lost their lives. They lost their homes. Right?
Well,
am I right about that?
You're 100% right. And I think you're 100% right about politics. And the problem with politics is that people want to preserve the structure that pays them. They want to preserve the entity that they're invested in, that they have their time in, they have all their connections. And this is the weird world of politics versus the world of business. And, what's fascinating right now is we're getting a chance to see what happens when you take a business approach to the government in the White House. We're seeing right now with this whole USAID thing where they're uncovering massive amounts of corruption and waste and just a lot of weird shady shit with NGOs and where an enormous amount of money is going. And you're seeing someone look at this thing that is incredibly efficient almost by design. And instead of saying, like, well, this is just how it is, and this is how these politicians get funded, so let's just keep this thing going the same way it is and make some incremental changes to try to make people happy so we still get elected.
Right.
Instead of that, you're seeing a politician, a president who's coming in who can't get reelected, so he's just going ham. And he's just cleaning out everything. And people are freaking out. The same people that say we need radical change.
Right.
We need radical change. We've got corruption. We need radical change. Okay, well, here's your radical change. We don't need this. But you do.
Yeah.
The government does. They need oversight.
Yeah,
and they haven't had that. And because of that, you're seeing this not just waste. You could call it waste, but it's deeper. It's deeper than waste. It's corruption. And you're seeing that corruption get weeded out. I am hoping that this is successful and that it yields a benefit to the American people, to the working class people, to everybody, where they recognize, like, hey, we can't just be spending all our tax money on nonsense.
Right.
And it all should be done with a real clear understanding of getting results.
Right.
If that happens and that idea spreads across the country, because ideas spread and
right.
people change their minds.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes it happens. One guy in the neighborhood will go, you know what? this. I'm fed up. And then everybody's like, yeah, I've been kind of thinking that too. I just didn't want to say it. And then
exactly
people
right,
start
Joe.
talking. And then it's not a scary thing to discuss anymore.
That's right. It opens the door.
Right.
100%. And I think you're seeing that now. I feel it in LA. You're seeing that now. Like I said, it's terrible that it took this kind of tragedy to have people seeing it. I'm a big believer it can change. I'm a big believer that LA can turn around. I'm a big believer we can fix the problems. I'm a big believer we can fix the problems in California. I really am. And I think we have started to turn this corner where people are saying, you know what, whether you're Democrat or Republican, to me, sort of doesn't matter. Are you competent?
Well, Gavin Newsom could answer that for you, and the answer would be no. No, not competent. This is actually a pretty good episode. They're touching on the whole California problem beyond what happened recently, the disaster, but they're getting into the whole weeds of, how did this happen? Who's in charge? How do things change? So I like this episode a lot, but let's focus where focus needs to be done. Let me give you a quick Pentagon breakdown. Listen to this.
I don't think you truly understand how insane the numbers the Pentagon and the IRS are putting up as far as spending our tax dollars really is. So let me put that into perspective for you. I did some math, so just take a listen. So it was discovered that the Pentagon was spending $600 million per year for sushi. Hello, Siri. If we take that number divided by 365 days, that gets us $1,643,835.62 per day spent on sushi. Now, it's estimated by Google that the Pentagon has 23,000 employees. If we divide that number by the 23,000 employees, we get $71.47 per day per employee on sushi. And you say, oh, well, $71, that seems about fair for every day. That is every single day, including federal holidays and weekends. $71. That's more than some people make a day. It was found that the IRS is spending $230,000 per month on Starbucks cinnamon K-Cups. Multiply that by 12 months, we get $2,760,000 per year on Starbucks cinnamon K-Cups. Now, if we divide that by 40.26, which is the lowest cost I could find on Amazon for a 60-pack of these Starbucks K-Cups, we get 68,554.4 60-packs. Now, if we multiply that by 60 for the 60 packs, we get 4,113,263.78 K-Cups. Divide that by Google's roughly estimated 90,000 IRS employees. That is 45.7 K-Cups per day per employee. Oh, but it gets worse. And since it was actually found that only 10% of these employees were actually in office, we can take that 90,000 divided by 10 and get 9,000 employees. If we take that 4,113,263.78 K-Cups, divide that by 9,000 employees instead, that is 457 K-Cups per employee per day. Now, that's an insane amount. But let's look at the caffeine content, shall we? 120 milligrams in each of those K-Cups. Multiply that by 457 K-Cups per day. That is 54,840 milligrams of caffeine, or 54.8 grams of caffeine. You want to know what the lethal limit of caffeine is? 5 grams. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I'm pretty sure 54.8 is significantly larger than 5 grams. So if this doesn't make you mad and make you realize that something else is going on with our money, I don't know what will. But just remember, since tax season's coming up and the IRS is going to come snooping around and asking where their money's at, just tell them, should have made coffee at home.
This guy went down to the caffeine. I didn't watch the clip all the way through to see that, but that is the type of thing that we are starting to see that they were doing. It's funny because Joe says the same people who wanted radical change, quote unquote, are the same people who are now fighting this whole thing with USAID. And I know why. Sushi every day? Are you kidding me? Sushi every day. You probably get to pocket it some days. You probably don't have to spend it every single day. You got the K-cups. You probably giving them out to your family and stuff. Take a box here, take a box. It's a nice little thing to have, part of your job. And then when somebody comes to take it away, some fascist billionaire doing Nazi salutes. Yeah, of course you're going to want to fight it. I'm just kidding. It's pure corruption. There's nothing to understand about this. But also, it's just what happens when things go unchecked. If you have access to that type of money and someone can actually sign something that gets that much sushi or anything, just that much money in general, yeah, people are going to start to do things like that, especially if they just go unchecked. No one looks into it at all, ever. Obviously. And a lot of these people are working from home. They're living it up. This is Nancy Mace talking about the whole thing with USAID.
Now know USAID. They're screaming about Elon Musk over there, but hey, George Soros and his boy are okay. They scream that we're all a threat to democracy when they've been systematically dismantling democracy before our eyes. They've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And there's no going back. So I would tell my colleagues across the other side of the aisle, take your salty tears and sit right back down. USAID has long strayed from its mission to effectively and efficiently administer aid to advance American interests. We all now know
Man, it couldn't be more right about that. They've been caught with the hand in the cookie jar. Like when you start hearing about it, right? I'm bringing you through some stuff, but one thing that I don't know if I have the clip, but there was something to the tune of millions of dollars, and it was a sock pairing program. It's real. I'm not making it up. I'm not being funny. Laugh if you want. It's a sock pairing program. This is all taxpayer money. I think I covered it on the other channel, but there's all sorts of things. Serbian DEI programs that was worth a whole bunch of money. Transgender operas in Colombia, a trans comic book in Peru. They're just funding all sorts of things. And Marco Rubio right now is the acting director of USAID because everybody scattered the second that they were being put under this type of audit. People started resigning left and right. Some people got put on leave. Almost 100 employees of USAID got put on leave. And he was saying from his experience that they were constantly doing things that went against the agenda of not just America, but the actual countries that they were involving themselves with, which is just crazy. That's a lot of people feel like America's hated just because of war, but there was also this happening the whole time where this government, this taxpayer funded government organization was doing things in the faces of other governments that was kind of like a subversion. And they'd be like, why are they doing this? I thought they were here to help us. Wild. Absolutely wild. Listen to this.
USAID has gotten a lot of attention in the last couple of days with some of these bizarre things that we've been, taxpayers have been funding. Now it looks like there are a couple media outlets that have been dragged into this conversation as far as USAID funding as well. Does the president have any comment on that?
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than 8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see.
Wow. So Politico, and I believe there's another, I want to say NPR, don't quote me on that, but I know Politico for sure because there actually is more on that. We have Trump talking about it, but I just want to jump over here. Let me see if I can just find it really quick. Apparently NPR Somebody was saying NPR was as well. Tax dollars finance national public radio. That's pretty wild. Elon Musk went on to say that many media outlets are going to experience a mysterious drop in revenue. Somebody was tweeting out they were outraged, tax dollars were going to Politico. Benny Johnson, he wrote this here. Let me go up there. The biggest scandal in news media history. No employees at Politico were paid yesterday for the first time ever. The company missed a pay period. This is a crisis. Now we learn that Politico, a news company, quote unquote, spent the last 10 years trying to destroy the MAGA movement, was being massively funded by USAID. Trump and Elon deleted their funding. Now Politico is going out of business. The corruption is endless. And you can see here, let me get a little closer. Oh, yeah. So $8.2 million they received. Here you can see a little track of the, let me see if I can get this closer. Let's see here. Let's see. So we're seeing 2019, everything was low. Then 2020, it jumped right up. How about that? Right at 2020, then 2021, 2022, 2023, because Trump was really getting rolling with his campaign. 2024, they hit a peak. 2025, a sharp drop off because the funding has been stopped. This is a wild thing to have happen. I'm telling you, man, this is crazy. Absolutely crazy. So let's go back here to Trump speaking on the whole thing. I just got to show you guys this really quick. Where is it? Sean Ryan's like, how ironic. The New York Times and Politico, both of which received USAID funding, are now reporting on it. Do you know how angry I would be as an editor if somebody came in, I'm in Politico here, I haven't gotten paid, we don't know what's going on. Somebody walks in, hey, just finished this story, boss. I'd be like, oh, what the what? Are you serious? It's a big story. Everyone's talking about it. You think it's true? What the fuck? Get this. Get out of here. Get out. Get out. Do something about why, I don't know, white males are crazy or racist, okay? Do something about that. Just divide the country somehow. Don't report on. Just divide the country like we're used to doing, please. Something on Trump. Something on Trump being horrible. Small hands. Can we go back to small hands again? Anything. I would be so mad. Come on. Can't report on that. But good on them for doing it, I guess. Everything's content. Guys, sorry to interrupt the video. You know I don't like to do that, but I just had to let you know that there is another channel that I have. Okay, we have 255 videos, and this is where we break away from the Joe Rogan content. We are covering breaking news. We are covering just things that are going on, culture war stuff, woke nonsense, all sorts of stuff like that. So for those of you who have been asking, hey, what's with the big focus on Joe Rogan? Here it is. This is where we break away from the Joe Rogan content. Coach Colin Media, link in the description. Let's get back to the video. All right, here's Trump talking a little bit about it, and he suspects some kickbacks were happening.
Thank you, sir. On Elon Musk, how often are you talking to him? And have there been ideas that he's brought to you that you've said, oh, no, wait a minute, this is going a little too far?
Well, many ideas, but look, he's done a great job. Look at all the fraud that he's found in this USAID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money, with the money. I'd like to see what the kickbacks are. How much money has been kicked back? Who would spend that kind of money to some of the things that you read about and I read about and I see every night on the news and every morning when I read the papers? Who would spend money for that? I would say this, the people that got all that money, are they kicking it back to the people that gave it from government? No, that's, to me, very, very corrupt. The real question is, how much of a kickback has there been? And one of the things I want to investigate rapidly, because I've never seen anything to this.
Wild. And he's right. I mean, you hear about, X amount of millions spent on something so trivial. I think there was one about, and this is real, about, it was, oh, no. Do I have it? I think it's about pizza. I think it's about pizza being good or bad. Yeah, here it is. Listen to this.
So in the uncovered documents related to U.S. aid, it turns out that the U.S. government, your tax dollars, right, $29 million went to Politico. And then Politico funded a study explaining why pizza is bad for you, okay? And then they sold that study for another $60 million to start a nonprofit whose drive is to shut down New York City pizza ovens and to push New York City pizza owners out of business. Then from that, they started another nonprofit to raise $17.3 million in order to buy pizzas around the country and dump them in the ocean in the name of doing good for the climate. This is all well documented. Unbelievable. Your tax dollars.
Listen, come on. I mean, I tell you, you know to have your tinfoil Speedo on. You know that, right? Were they just who made that whole thing? You know what I mean? Somebody. Listen, how much does it cost to start this whole thing? I don't know. Well, we sold it for 60 mil. How much do you need? We only need 10. We only need 10. Only need 10 million. That leaves 50 million on the table. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Huh? Like, what are you doing? You have $20 million left over from some weird initiative that you did. Listen, I'm not saying anything. It just seems a little odd. Listen to this.
I have been on USAID's case for years now, going back several years, where I was trying to investigate the expenditures for humanitarian aid, primarily when it came to the war in Ukraine. And what my team and I encountered was absolute obstruction and lies coming out of USAID. They did everything possible to stop me from accessing their records to understand where our taxpayer money was going. I eventually partnered with Representative Mike McCall in the House, and we started a formal congressional investigation. And even after that, they really pushed back, only allowed us access to a small amount of data. But what we found was extreme expenditures on the part of USAID with very little data-driven results. We have seen money funded in the Wuhan Institute of Virology through dollars steered by USAID on dangerous coronaviruses. We saw how that turned out. We've seen funding going to Morocco for pottery classes, tourism in Lebanon, of all places, even when the State Department was advising against travel. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, there was another initiative too. It was tourism in Egypt that they were trying to figure out, and they spent a bunch of money on it. And in that video that you just saw, you saw protests going on. It's because all the Democrats got together, riled up a bunch of people. And by riled, I mean maybe paid. I don't know. But riled up a bunch of people with these USAID Saves Lives signs. And then they got together and they just kind of fear-mongered the whole time. This guy does a great breakdown on it.
In the building behind me, Elon Musk is seizing power from the American people.
No, he's not. He's doing what the American people voted for. We voted for the Department of Government Efficiency to come in and clean up all the waste in the system. In order for them to do that, that requires them to have access to the financials and see where money is being sent. This isn't complicated, but let's let her continue.
Elon Musk spent $280 million to buy an election for Donald Trump. Now, Elon Musk is here to collect on his investment.
So what, is he going to steal the money out of my grandma's retirement account and deposit it in his account? What is he doing to collect on his investment? For one, he does not have the power to redirect any payments. He only has view-only access. But that's not convenient for the Democrats' fear-mongering. The reason he invested that money into the election is because he saw the Democratic Party as a threat to our civilization. He said this himself. I'm not saying this. He also has seen what the Democratic Party's ideals and values have done to one of his own children. But let's let her fear-mongering tirade continue.
He is here to seize power for himself. We are here to fight back. Yes.
They look so goofy. This is so goofy. They're just using the fact that he's wealthy and a billionaire, right, to manipulate people into supporting Democrats and hating Elon Musk so the Democrats can get back in power. That's all she's doing. And it's gross. Notice she never tells you how he's seizing power. He's a billionaire, he's rich, and he's got access, and he's doing everything for himself, and he bought an election. You should not vote for him or the Republicans. You should vote for us. We're good. We're moral. We're fighting against it. Shut up. No, you're not. You're manipulative. Let's see how else this individual tries to manipulate people.
Musk has grabbed control of America's payment system. Yes. This is the system that makes sure that your grandpa gets his Social Security check on time.
For one, he didn't grab control. He was given access to view where transactions are going. If his job is to eliminate unnecessary and wasteful spending, yes, he needs to be able to view where the money's going.
I like this guy. I'm actually going to try and interview this guy. This is his at there. Jeffrey Mead, I believe that is how it's pronounced there. And I just had to interject because this is what you're seeing. What Joe said, the same people who want change, Elizabeth Warren, saying how much she wants change. She's the same person that's fighting RFK. They're the same people that are fighting Tulsi Gabbard being confirmed, which she's going to be. She's secured the votes, and RFK is about to be in front of Senate. I think he's going to get confirmed as well. They're the same people fighting Kash Patel. They're the same people fighting for USAID to not get audited. Because understand, all of this stemmed from Elon Musk approaching the company with his Doge team saying, we need access to XYZ files. And the head of USAID was like, no. And he's like, this has been a long time coming. I'm Elon Musk. I don't know if I'm Elon Musk. This is Doge. This is what we do. We have to see whether or not you're being efficient with your money. We have to see what you're doing with your money. He said no. He resigned. Elon Musk had to put, or not Elon, but the top two people underneath the guy who was at the head, they got put on leave. This is actually how it happened. The two people who were just below the head guy, it was the deputy and I think just the second person in command. I forget what his title is, but they were both asked, hey, can we have access? They said no. They were put on leave. Then Elon goes to the head guy. He says, this is an audit. We need to know what's going on. That dude resigns. They had to put 100 people on leave because those people were refusing to give proper access. That's why this whole thing has happened. This is not because Elon Musk is some kind of tyrant, and I know I don't have to tell you guys that, but it's all just because they wanted to see where the money was going. That's it. And this is how they react. They stage protests. They're screaming about Elon Musk taking power. All of this stuff is so terrible that what they're doing, they're just getting audited. If you and I acted like this when we were confronted with an audit, we would be going to jail. So just wanted to bring you guys all that information. Just figured it'd be great just to go over. And, if you have a sock pairing program for 20 mil, you get all the socks on Alibaba. How many you need? 1,000? What do you pay, like 10,000 for the socks? How much you got left over? What's going on? How much you going to pay the guy who's making the socks, pairing them together? How much money's left over from all these things? I don't know, but that's what Trump wants to know. And I think we should know as well. Anyways, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps the channel tremendously. Other than that, I'm out.